Have you ever wondered what happens when three men who all believe history should bend around them step into the same year at the same time under an energy cycle that rewards boldness but punishes ego-driven miscalculation? Because that is really the question sitting underneath 2026. This is not just about another tense year in geopolitics, and it is not just about three leaders doing what they have always done. The environment itself changes, the speed changes, the emotional temperature changes, the cost of misreading a situation changes. And when that kind of timing meets leaders who are already aggressive, strategic, proud, and deeply attached to their own vision of how the world should work, the risk is not small. The risk is that each man mistakes his own momentum for destiny. Now, let me ask you two very direct questions before we go any further. If Donald Trump, Vladimir Putin, and Xi Jinping all enter 26 under conditions that amplify speed, ambition, and public consequence, do you really think the world gets a calmer year, or do you think it gets a much more fragile one, where one wrong move travels faster than before? And if these three men are not simply managing countries, but trying in different ways to reshape the global order itself, what happens when their instincts, ambitions, and timing all collide inside the same compressed year? Stay with me until the end of this video for three reasons. Because first, I'm going to show you why the Firehorse year is not just another symbolic label, but a very useful lens for understanding the emotional and strategic tempo of 2026. Second, I'm going to walk you through the leadership styles of Trump, Putin, and Xi in a way that actually explains why the collision risk is real. And third, I'm going to show you where the biggest flashpoints are likely to sit. Not because the future is fixed, but because some years reward patience while others expose overreach very quickly. And before we go deeper, if conversations like this help you read the world more clearly instead of just reacting to headlines after the damage is already done, click like, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with other people who need to understand that global leadership in 2026 is not just about politics, it is about timing, energy, and who loses control first. Now let's reset the frame properly. 2026 is the Firehorse year, and if you understand anything about a Firehorse structure, you know it is not a sleepy, diplomatic, low-temperature environment where everyone politely manages risk and waits their turn. Firehorse years accelerate, they amplify visibility, movement, ambition, confidence, emotion, and the urge to act before the opportunity disappears. They reward courage when it is aligned, but they punish impulsiveness when it is not. That is what makes them dangerous. They make bold leaders feel stronger, but they also expose which leaders are running on heat instead of judgment. So if you place Trump, Putin, and Xi into that kind of year, you are not placing ordinary managers into a mildly challenging environment. You are placing three men with very different instincts, very large egos, and very high stakes into a year that increases speed and reduces the margin for error. That is why I do not think the right question is whether these men will remain ambitious. Of course they will. The right question is which of them will mistake intensity for clarity and which of them will know when to act and when not to. Because in a Firehorse year, speed can create dominance for one moment and disaster the next. Now, let's start with Trump. Trump in a year like 2026 is exactly the kind of force that can either break deadlock or create unnecessary chaos. That is the paradox with Hadrian. He thrives on pressure, conflict, spectacle, and movement. He likes leverage, he likes personal dominance, he likes forcing the room to react to him rather than waiting for permission from institutions he does not really respect. In a slower, colder year, that style can still be destabilizing, but in a Firehorse year, it gets amplified. His strengths become stronger and his weaknesses become more dangerous. The strength is obvious. He does not freeze. He is willing to act when others hesitate. He is willing to break stale patterns and force new outcomes that can be useful when institutions are slow, weak, or trapped in their own rituals. But the weakness is just as obvious. He can confuse instinct with strategy. He can mistake reaction for strength. He can push something because it feels decisive in the moment without fully caring what second and third order consequences look like afterwards. That is precisely the kind of leader who can look brilliant in a fire year for one quarter and then create a far bigger mess by the next. Because fire does not just reward movement, it exposes what the movement was actually built on. Now look at Putin. Putin is a very different creature. He is not random. He is not theatrical in the same way. He is far colder, more subterranean, more patient in some ways, but also more dangerous when cornered. He has already spent years trying to break the cohesion of the Western system and prove that the post-Cold War order was neither permanent nor stable. His instinct is not simply to win. His instinct is to fracture, to weaken, to exhaust, to make the other side doubt its own ability to hold together. And that is why a firehorse year can become especially dangerous for him if he starts feeling pressure internally or strategically. Because fire years make leaders more visible and force hidden weakness closer to the surface. If he feels momentum slipping, he may be tempted toward larger, riskier, more disruptive plays, not because they are elegant, but because disruption is still his most reliable weapon. That is the danger with men like Putin. They do not always need a clean victory. Sometimes they only need to make the environment worse for everyone else. But here is the problem for him in 2026. A year that amplifies bold action also amplifies exposure. If he overreaches, the consequences can harden much faster. If he escalates, the costs can compound more quickly. A strategy built on controlled instability becomes much less controlled in a year where the whole board is already hot. Now she is different again. That is not as improvisational as Trump and not as purely disruptive as Putin. He is more strategic, more long range, more interested in structural repositioning than theatrical confrontation. He thinks in cycles, not just moments. He is trying to alter the balance of power over time, not just win an argument this week. That kind of patience can be a huge advantage in a heated year because when others are reacting, the calm strategist often looks stronger. But that does not make him safe. It makes him formidable. Because if he sees 2026 as a year where his rivals are distracted, overstretched, or politically divided, he may decide that pressure can be increased in ways that stop just short of outright war, but still force the world to adjust to China's terms. That is exactly the kind of move a strategic operator makes in a firehorse year. Not reckless explosion, but tightly managed escalation. Enough force to shift the environment, not enough to lose control entirely. And that is why the collision between these three men matters so much. You do not have one style on the board. You have three completely different leadership logics entering the same accelerated year. Trump pushes and personalizes, Putin disrupts and destabilizes, Dixie calculates and advances. Each one can read the same moment and choose a different kind of move, and all three moves can still collide. Now, this is where people start making the mistake of thinking the risk sits only in the men themselves. It does not. It sits in the flashpoints where their interests meet under pressure. Ukraine is the obvious one. If Trump is in a position to reshape America's stance, he may try to force a deal quickly, because that is exactly the kind of move he likes. Big, visible, transactional, framed as strength. But a fast deal is not automatically a stable one. Putin may see any Western fatigue as an opening to push further, not soften, and Xi may look at that whole situation and learn something very important about how divided or distracted the West really is. So what begins as an attempt to solve one front could easily create a weaker balance elsewhere. That is how these collisions work. One leader acts in his own logic and the others adjust in theirs. Taiwan is the second major flashpoint. This is where Xi's long game becomes especially important. He does not need to launch the most extreme action to create a major strategic crisis. He only needs to increase pressure enough to test resolve, change expectations, and force responses. Now place that inside a year where Trump may respond unpredictably and publicly, and where every signal gets amplified by firehorse intensity, suddenly the risk is not only military, it is psychological. It is market based. It is about who flinches, who escalates, who misreads, and who assumes the other side will back down. That kind of environment is combustible. Then you have the wider structure of the world economy, energy, supply chains, cybersecurity, and information warfare. A lot of people still think great power conflict only matters if tanks move or missiles launch. That is childish. These collisions already affect currency confidence, trade routes, energy expectations, shipping risk, digital infrastructure, and political stability in allied regions. In a firehorse year, those consequences move faster because heat compresses reaction time. A cyber move, a naval move, a sanctions move, a treaty move, a political threat, all of these can travel into markets and business environments before the average person even understands what they are looking at. That is why founders, investors, and leaders who think geopolitics is interesting but far away are kidding themselves. In 2026, if these three men collide badly, the effects will not stay in government briefings. They will turn up in confidence, capital movement, risk appetite, commodity pressure, and the wider emotional tone of the global economy. Now, if this is helping you see the year more clearly, click like, subscribe to this channel, and share this video with other people who still think 2026 is just about campaign headlines and diplomatic drama. It is much bigger than that. Let's go deeper into the real danger. The greatest risk in a firehorse year is not boldness itself. Boldness can be useful. Systems sometimes need boldness because timid leadership cannot handle real inflection points. The real danger is reactivity disguised as boldness. That is what destroys balance. A leader feels pressure, wants to look strong, and makes a move because not moving feels psychologically weaker in the moment. But a firehorse year punishes that kind of ego response very quickly because it takes one impulsive act and multiplies the consequences across the whole board. Trump is vulnerable to that because he likes dominance and public leverage. Putin is vulnerable to that because pressure can make him more destructive. Scride is vulnerable in a different way because strategic patience can turn into strategic overconfidence if he believes the timing window is opening and cannot be wasted. That is what makes this a real collision year, not just ambition, competing forms of ambition under accelerated timing. Now, here is the brutally honest part. A lot of commentary on world leaders is still far too polite. People speak as if these men are calmly stewarding global order according to a shared adult framework. They are not. Each of them is attached to a personal and national story in which he is not merely managing history but shaping it. That matters because once leaders begin seeing themselves as the ones who must define the next era, compromise stops looking strategic and starts looking weak. And in a firehorse year, weak is exactly what none of them wants to look like. That is why I would not describe 2026 as a normal year of statecraft. I would describe it as a year of compressed consequence, ego exposure, and strategic testing. Some of that may produce breakthroughs, but a lot of it can just as easily produce instability, especially if one leader assumes the others are bluffing. That is how collisions happen. Not because nobody saw the danger, because everybody thought they understood it better than the others. So let me bring this home clearly. What does the 2026 Firehorse collision really mean? It means the world is entering a year where force, speed, pride, and ambition all rise at the same time. It means Trump may try to impose movement through pressure and deal making. It means Putin may try to weaponize instability to break resistance. It means Ye may use the year's acceleration to test how far strategic pressure can be pushed. And it means all three men may believe they are acting with strength while actually creating the exact conditions for greater disorder. That is the real risk. Not one villain, not one war, not one speech. A collision of leadership styles under a year that rewards precision and punishes ego-driven miscalculation. And if the world gets this wrong, the consequences will not stay at the top. They will travel downward into every layer of the system. If this perspective gave you a sharper way to think about Trump, Putin, Xi, and the deeper timing of 2026, click like, subscribe to this channel, and share it with other people who want to understand the world through pattern and power rather than just daily headlines. And if you want deeper conversations about Chinese metaphysics, leadership, global strategy, Period 9, and how to read the forces shaping the years ahead, join the Destiny Architect Telegram chat, where we continue these discussions with people who want clarity instead of noise.